So we have Ben Shapiro here for our next video saying, Tucker Carlson publicly quits the Republican Party. Thank God. See ya, Tucker Carlson. Nobody wants you anyways. You're a loser. Here we go, Ben Shapiro.
So Tucker Carlson says he no longer supports the Republican Party. Aw. Same as Nick Fuentes, same as Candace Owens, same as Marjorie Taylor Greene. For a long time, I've been talking about ideological borders for conservatives because words have meanings and political movements must have borders. Well, it turns out the illegal immigrant Republicans are self-deporting, which is a good thing because what we don't need here are people who won't assimilate to our culture or our values and who would like our enemies to win. So, good riddance. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
Oh, The Ben Shapiro Show.
So, a lot of people have noticed that I've been very critical of the vice president and the way that he is negotiating with Iran. And we'll get to that much later in the show. But recently he was on Megyn Kelly's show in order to trot out his defense of the Iran deal. And he said something that was kind of interesting, the vice president. He said that even if you disagree with the administration, you should stay in the coalition, even if you disagree, because you should vote Republican and not Democrat, because the alternative is to put the Democrats in power. And he was kind of right. Here's what the vice president had to say.
You disagree with the president on this particular policy, that doesn't mean you can give up on the entire enterprise.
Yeah, no,
and the reason,
I agree with
Megyn,
that.
the reason why neocons are so much more effective in politics than the people on the other side in our coalition is because they play the game.
Mm-hmm.
They get disappointed, they make their criticisms, and they go back and they live to fight another day. Right now, we need everybody who recognizes that this is a good deal for the American people and that we don't want, like John Podolitz is saying, hundreds of thousands of ground troops in Iran. Make your voice heard. This is where you've got to participate in the process. Disagree when you disagree, agree when you agree. But I don't like this idea of the president did something I didn't like, so I'm out.
Yeah.
I think it's a very immature way to approach the political process.
I agree with
you. And it's
you.
the way to ensure that your enemies always win.
I've been saying the same because a lot of people have been saying that they feel blackpilled by the whole experience. You know, like I'm just out. And I have been trying to make the point that you can't do that, right?
No.
You got to stay.
Well, I mean, she kind of did say that recently, that she wanted to leave. Okay, but put aside all of the nonsense that the vice president is peddling there about how we really need a bunch of people who love the Iran deal to stay in because otherwise the neocons are going to win and all the rest of it. Here's the thing. I strenuously disagree with the administration's policy on Iran right now. I'm not leaving because the alternative would be for the Democrats to win. But the whole point of what so many people on the horseshoe right are doing, the woke right, what they are doing right now, is they are basically attempting to destroy the Republican Party from within, to throw their support to somebody else in order to get the Republican Party to run after them screaming. Well, you know, I'm okay with people who are rabidly anti-American leaving the party. I don't think we need them here. I think that if you came into the Republican Party.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson can, and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, they can fuck right off. They can go be in their own little 3-person party and say stupid shit and be anti-American, and Tucker can keep running cover for Islam and jihadists, and Candace can keep spouting her conspiracy theories about aliens and this and that and making shit up and making baseless claims, and Nick Fuentes can be his gay graper in the room, whatever he does, you know, doing stuff, and just, yeah, fine. No one needs them.
Because you're a refugee from your home party or from your home ideology. And we brought you in here as a kindness. And then you proceeded to take advantage of our system. You proceeded to believe that we were going to change all of our principles for you. You came in illegally. It's time for you to self-deport. Well, Tucker Carlson is now self-deporting from the Republican Party. He's very upset with the administration because the administration is not pro-Russia or pro-Iran enough for him. And so yesterday he announced on the Can't Be Censored pod, again, I have to admit, I find it somewhat hilarious that there are podcasts that claim that they are, quote unquote, being censored while having, you know, sizable audiences. People not liking your podcast doesn't mean you're being censored. In any case, Tucker Carlson said that he no longer supports the Republican Party. He can't.
Yeah, it's my favorite claim when people say they can't talk about Jews or Israel, and 95% of their episodes are about Jews and Israel, and their audiences are larger than they've ever been. It's just like hilarious.
because it's just too immoral. A moral Republican Party would have sided with Hezbollah, with Iran, and with the Russians. He just can't be part of it anymore. Well, don't let the door hit you on the way out, Tucker.
I would not support the Republican Party. There's no chance I would support the Republican Party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to do. But at this point, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States, that puts the interests of a foreign country above those of its own citizens? It's not possible to vote for people like that. And I'm not going to. And I think I voted Republican my entire life. I worked at Fox News, CNN, right, MSNBC. I've been a consistent defender for 35 years of the Republican Party. I mean, very consistent defender. But there's no defending this because it's immoral. And it's exactly the opposite of what a political party in a democracy is charged with doing, which is representing its own voters, its own citizens, its own nation. And they're not doing that. So, no, I'm out. And if I'm out, then I think a lot of other people are out.
So, I mean, first of all, Tucker says he's been a Republican for 35 years. That's weird because he was a registered Democrat from 2006 to 2020. He said he did that so he could vote for the Democrats in primaries and manipulate the system, except that Washington, D.C., which is where he was living, has a closed primary system. So, I don't know, man. I have some questions.
Oh, shocking. Tucker Carlson lies and tells half-truths again just to make himself seem a little bit more moral in that Christian value that he represents. What a slimy little bastard.
And as Michael Knowles, who is celebrating his 2000th episode basic today, by the way, you should go listen to his show. Michael Knowles is making this point on his show. The Republican Party has gotten more conservative in a wide variety of ways and more big government in a wide variety of other ways, actually, over time. And when it comes to America's foreign policy, America has grown less interventionist over time. So it's kind of strange that now is the moment that Tucker picks, but I guess that speaks to his principles and not really to the Republican Party. But here's the thing about Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson's political views have moved all over the map. If you watch Tucker Carlson in 1999, he is condemning Tucker Carlson in 2026. If you watch Tucker Carlson in 2004, 2005, he is just a normie Republican. And if you watch Tucker Carlson today, he's a wild-eyed conspiracy theorist with a lot of thoughts about the Jews. So I'm pretty sure that it's not about the Republican Party moving away from Tucker Carlson. I'm pretty sure it's about Tucker Carlson moving away from the Republican Party. Again, he has spent the last few months since Charlie Kirk's murder fulminating over whether, in fact, the nefarious Jews were involved, the hummus eaters, and having on every anti-Semite he can find on his program, and theorizing that the president of the United States is run by Israel, and also suggesting, of course, that some of the world's most extraordinary leftists, like Graham Plattner and Zohar Mamdani, are all totally fine. So I'm not sure where the space is for you inside the Republican Party. So I guess I'm glad that he is finally just giving up the ghost rather than pretending that the entire Republican Party must move over to his side. But understand tactically what he's doing. Tactically, what Tucker Carlson is attempting to do is basically leverage the Republican Party into following him. Instead of trying to convince within the tent, instead of trying to make his case, what he's essentially threatening to do is overturn the apple cart and then walk out the door and hope that, say, Vice President J.D. Vance, with whom he is personally close, will come back in with Tucker arm in arm and then cram down Tucker's views on the rest of the party. This is how a splinter faction works. That's the actual strategic thing he is doing. It's the same thing Nick Fuentes is doing. It's the same thing Candace Owens is doing. It's the same thing that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie are doing right now. So it's not a gigantic shock. And it's not really tactically stupid what Tucker is doing. It does, however, demonstrate that if the party has any principles at all, there may be certain principles that alienate certain people. And that's okay. That's good. See, a party is supposed to be a receptacle for votes. It is not supposed to change its fundamental principles in pursuit of those votes. And if people wish to leave because they don't like the fundamental principles of that party, well, then it's a free country and they can. We should also point out that if the party does poorly in the midterms, it's very difficult to blame the people who voted for the party rather than the people who walked out the door because the party wasn't pro-Iran or pro-Russia or weak enough with regard to foreign policy. Again, the Republican Party has traditionally been pretty...
Yeah, the funniest part about Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes is they claim to be America first, but everything they talk about is so anti-American that it's ridiculous. And then they run cover for terrorists and for Russia and for Hezbollah and all these types of things. But they're America first, even though they're the most anti-American.
Anti-Iran and anti-Russia. It's Tucker Carlson who's changed his principles. Listen, if the Republican Party will not support Vladimir Putin's aspirations in Ukraine, and if the Republican Party will not sing the glories of Russian bread and Russian subways and Russian hamburgers, if the Republican Party will not bend over for Qatar completely, if the Republican Party refuses to just cheer on the Iranians as they foster terrorism throughout the region, what are we even doing here? And I'm perfectly fine with illegal immigrant Republicans self-deporting. This is good. I mean, on the same podcast, Tucker Carlson was literally saying that Charlie Kirk was murdered by the Jews. That is what he was saying. Hey, here we go. Even TPUSA, which again, TPUSA has been very warm to Tucker. TPUSA has invited him very prominently to a wide variety of their events. They had him host alongside J.D. Vance, Charlie Kirk's show the week after Charlie's death. Here is Tucker trying to get the actual alleged murderer of Charlie Kirk off the hook so that he can rip on Israel or the Jews or something.
Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Yeah.
And he was not murdered for his opinions on transgenderism, obviously. He was, I believe, and most people who knew him well, as I did, and was friends with him as I was, believe he was most likely murdered for his evolving views on Israel. So I get it. A lot's at stake. The world is at stake. But from my perspective, I have a duty to say what I think is true. I'm often wrong. And I always say that because it's a fact. I have been wrong a lot, and I may be wrong now. But I am sincere. I'm saying what I believe is true, and I'm going to continue doing that no matter what.
Well, no matter what comes, he will say crazy things. By the way, Blake Neff over at TPUSA points out that that's not true, and that the people who are closest with Charlie full on believe that Charlie was murdered by the trans-loving gay man, because that's what all the evidence points to. But Tucker's out, and so is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh no, she's
Ben. Listen. It doesn't matter what the evidence says. It doesn't matter what's true. It only matters that it's the Jews. That's the only thing that matters. Ben, you should know that. Ben.
out. Well, Tucker is not the only one who's done supporting the Republican Party. There are a lot of us. There is a lot of us. I shouldn't correct her grammar. There is a lot of us that are absolutely fed up and will not support a party that betrays its voters and country. That does not mean we are turning into Democrats either, but we are done with the America Last Republican Party. So I would just like to point out, if the Republicans don't do well in the midterms, it might have something to do with all of these erstwhile pseudo-Republicans who are leaving. Maybe it has to do with that. And again, Megyn Kelly telling J.D. Vance how she's never believed that she should just leave because she's upset over what the Republicans are doing. Literally 2 weeks ago, she was with Sean Ryan talking about forming a horseshoe coalition with Anna Kasparian, a lady who literally tweeted this week in support of terrorism.
The line between left and right is merging. You know, like there's something rising out of the
Only
middle
for
of that
you.
that is
You're
far
talking
less
with Anna
partisan.
Kasparian.
Yeah, I love her.
I have a hard time looking at Megyn Kelly for some reason. I don't know. That's just a personal issue. Anyways, it's the horseshoe right, or it's the horseshoe theory. It's the woke right merging with progressives on the left, crazy people like Anna Kasparian. And it's funny that they'll try to say they don't do stuff, and then there's video evidence of them saying the opposite and contradicting themselves. It's very funny.
It's awesome.
I love her.
I do too.
Well, you
She's
know,
awesome.
People think of me as a Republican, but I haven't been a Republican in over 20 years. I was a registered Democrat when I was fresh out of school, and then I was a registered Republican for a few years when I was like right around when I joined Fox News. And then I quickly realized, like, I don't want to wear either of these team jerseys. I'm against both of these guys.
Oh, she's against both of these guys. She doesn't wear a team shirt. She's against both of these guys. Now, again, far be it for me to suggest that.
I mean, you can't believe anything Megyn says. She's just a grifter and she goes with the wind. Milk Bar TV has done some amazing compilation videos of Megyn Kelly where she just says whatever she thinks is the new trend, and she'll go flip-flop, she'll grift, she'll go back and forth, she'll have hypocrisy, she'll have contradictions. She just goes wherever the views are. And so Megyn Kelly is consistent in that regard, that she just flows with the views and doesn't really have her own values, her own stance about anything. And so I'm not really why she's a trusted political pundit, but it is what it is.
Party should trump principle. It shouldn't. But the point is that the Republican Party has certain principles. If you do not accord with those centralizing principles, like, for example, peace through strength, then probably you shouldn't be here. That's okay. You can leave. But perhaps you also should not be the lodestar of a new Republican Party. Because building around the people who are going to leave over the fact that the administration bombed Iran, and are so unhappy that even when J.D. Vance, a man who many of them are deeply personally and politically allied with, is running the show with regard to Iran policy, and they're still leaving. I mean, okay, I suppose you can do that. I'm just going to point out that self-deportation is, in fact, a fine policy when it comes to people who joined up for the wrong reasons in the first place.